Several years ago, I prayed for a more realistic understanding of the events leading up to Good Friday. I longed for the Bible stories to come alive. I wanted to be there. My prayers were answered. As I read the various passages, I found myself present, sometimes as if I was one of the people involved, sometimes as an onlooker. In the piece I'm going to read you, I am an onlooker, a boy walking with his father in the Garden of Gethsemane after sharing the Passover meal. It was not unusual for my father to go for a quiet walk after the Passover meal. In the past, one or two of my brothers had gone with him. They would tease me, saying that the baby boy was not old enough to go with Abba. But that year my brothers were busy arguing politics, putting the world to rights. So father and I set out together, turning towards Gethsemane, without either of us saying a word. Gethsemane is owned by an old friend of my father's. He does not mind us walking there, but I used to get told off for playing there when I was younger. We walked amongst the olive trees in companionable silence. Imagine our surprise when we practically fell over a man on the ground. His voice alerted us, so we avoided stepping on him. It sounded as if he was praying, but I heard him say, "Abba, if it is possible," and I wondered if his father was there too. And then I thought he said, "Don't let me drink this cup, yet not my will, but yours." It was odd. Who was he talking to? Or was he praying? Perhaps I didn't hear him properly. I wanted to ask my father, but the look on his face told me not to say anything. But as we walked on across the garden, my father touched my shoulder. My father touched my shoulder and pointed, for there was a group of men sitting and slouching on the ground. It even looked as if some of them were asleep. My father whispered, "They'll get into trouble if they're found sleeping the night here." As he spoke, another man appeared silently. My father looked startled. The man was the one we had nearly trodden on. We watched as he looked at the group on the ground. "What, could none of you stay awake with me for 1 hour? Stay awake and pray." We could not hear the rest of the sentence. We carried on walking, not realizing that once again we were on a collision course with the man who had spoken. We stopped short when we saw him. This time I was certain he was praying, but he was still talking to his father. He said, "My father, if it is not possible for this cup to pass me by without my drinking it, your will be done." I raised my eyebrows to my father and gestured to him that we should walk away. I was longing to ask what he thought this might mean. What was this about a cup? My father very calmly suggested that the young man thought something was going to happen that he did not want to happen. He spoke in a tone that told me not to ask any more. We walked a circuit. We walked a circuit and met the sleeping men again. And once again the praying man was standing looking at them. He looked sad, shook his head and went away again. I whispered, "Do you think he's gone to pray again?" And this time we followed him. We heard his voice, but it did not seem right to listen deliberately, so we carried on with our walk. Then we heard his voice again, louder this time. "Still asleep, still resting. The hour has come." We did not stay to hear more. I was wild with curiosity, but my father said it might not be safe to stay. What did he mean, not safe? Sure enough, as we slipped quietly through the olive trees, we heard the sound of a large group of people. Hearing the sound of a large group of people, I grabbed my father's sleeve. We turned and watched. I saw one of the crowd dart forward and kiss the man we had seen praying. He called him Rabbi. I thought it must be Jesus. I had only ever seen him from a distance, and in the dark I had not recognized him. One of the other men drew his sword and swiped at someone. I couldn't see clearly, there were so many people. Jesus, yes, I'm sure it was Jesus, spoke to the crowd. The wind had got up and most of his words were blown away from us. I think I heard the words arrest, temple, prophets, but I could not be sure. Then suddenly Jesus was taken. The crowd had gone. Jesus was led away. I was going to follow, but my father caught my arm. He did not say anything, and I did not understand the expression on his face. We walked home, quickly but cautiously. As we entered the house, I thought I saw tears in my father's eyes. My mother must have seen them too, for she came forward, saying, "Nicodemus, whatever is the matter?"